Hello and welcome to my second World of Warships video. This time I'm focusing on a specific ship, and this isn't live commentary, it is dubbed over the, well, not the replay, the live recording I suppose. But this time I thought I'd show you some games in my Umikaze, the Japanese Tier 2 destroyer. And what's pretty typical for the Japanese destroyers that you will get later up the line, in that it's got pretty good torpedo armament for its tier, and that it's got 2 double torpedo launchers. And actually the one really good thing about these torpedoes is that they have an 8 kilometers range, which is actually more than you'll see on the Tier 3 and Tier 4 Japanese destroyers. I mean, the downside of that is that they are a bit on the slow side, so it can be difficult to hit targets. But you've got the range, so they'll go for a long time. It also means they're very likely to hit friendly ships if you're not paying attention, since they'll be in the water for a long time. The downside of the Japanese destroyers in general, and the Umikaze with them, is that its guns just aren't very good. This one has 3 120mm guns, which you might notice is not a lot of guns, and they're very small ones at that. And, well, the one really bad thing about Japanese destroyers is that their gun turrets turn painfully slowly, as in basically you can only keep your guns on target if you are going straight ahead. If you're turning at all, your guns won't be able to keep up with the rate of turn of your ship. But anyway, you see here, I'm basically just spamming torpedoes in the direction that this enemy cruiser is going. Oh, and I should also mention I was having some lag spikes at the start of this game, which is why you see me jumping around a bit here and pausing and then jumping. It's because my internet connection was dropping out kind of at the start of this game, and also towards the end a bit. And, well, at the start of the game I don't really expect any of these torpedoes to hit, especially this batch I'm about to fire now, because I wasn't really looking at the minimap, and if you look carefully you'll see the cruiser I'm shooting at is going behind the island, whereas my torpedoes are aimed directly at the island, which means that, well, they're just not going to hit. But yeah, kind of 5-6 kilometer ranges, just because of the slow speed of these torpedoes, they're actually just not very likely to hit. The enemy has a lot of time to turn, not necessarily to escape you deliberately, but just turn for other reasons. Anyway, at this point I kind of realised my mistake, and that basically all these torpedoes that are fired are going to miss. So I'm looking for another target to shoot at once I stop lagging a bit here. That one's obviously no good because, well, it's reversing back behind the island. So I was thinking about maybe just charging up and putting some shots in, but then I see there are plenty of ships heading through the smoke here. And at the front of them is an enemy destroyer. And I kind of see where it's turning. I decided to just fire some torpedoes, but destroyers are pretty hard to hit with torpedoes unless you get at really close range. They generally just don't stay still for long. And someone's firing torpedoes at me! And, well, it just passes under my stern, so I got really lucky there. But then my engine's quickly damaged, so I repair that and I start popping smoke, because this is not... well, you don't really want to be under fire for long, and the smoke will hide me so long as I don't shoot. And, well, I was going to come around and take some shots at this cruiser here, but friendly destroyers come in and kind of got in my way, and I don't really want to... well, I'd probably kill it if I fired my torpedoes, so I don't really have a very good chance of doing it. So I wait till I think I've got enough clearance, and, well, I fire a second batch of torpedoes, and then I realise that there was a cruiser directly in front of me I could have been firing at this whole time. And, well, I fired my torpedoes, so I go take a few shots from my guns, and, well, I got 2 hits, and someone else sunk it. But so far those 2 hits with high explosive shells are the only hits I've gotten in this entire game, after firing, I don't know, let's say a dozen torpedoes. And that salvo from the enemy cruiser just hurt me a lot. So I'm coming back around, and I'm lining up to take or fire some torpedoes up at this cruiser. There's a friendly destroyer, that same one I assume, or maybe it's a different one, coming into my way, so I decide I'm going to zigzag in closer. Basically, since I wasn't having a very good game, the lag was pissing me off a bit, I decided I'm going to come in suicidally close and then fire my torpedoes in the assumption that from this close they just basically can't miss. And, well, you can see I get away with it. Enemy secondary batteries do a bit of damage to me, but it takes all 4 of my torpedoes, and there's, well, my first kill. Those enemy destroyers are both behind islands, so I'm not going to be able to get shots on them. And also note that I'm not repairing my gun turret, just because, as I said, the guns aren't actually worth much on this ship. And they'll repair themselves in time, hopefully. Well, there you go, it's repaired itself now. So if I feel the need to use guns, I can. Oh, someone's fired torpedoes at me, but they're going to go well behind me. And actually, they might not have been fired at me. They might have been fired at that cruiser in front of me. So I was coming around this island, and I was thinking of taking some shots at this destroyer when I thought I'd have a chance, especially since I thought it basically beached itself right now. But it actually just managed to avoid the island, and well, I kind of realised that it's going to be stupid just chasing each other in circles around that island, since we're probably about the same speed and manoeuvrability and we're not going to catch each other. So for more use, I'll fire some torpedoes up at this cruiser. And I fired beyond 8 kilometers range because, well, I can see it's on a closing course with me. So it'll be less than 8 kilometers distance for those torpedoes to travel, since the enemy cruiser will basically be sailing into them. But as I said earlier, at maximum range, can't really expect them to hit. But I come around and decide to fire the other side of torpedoes. Well, not the other side of torpedoes, it's only got the one set of launchers, so I just fire them from the other side of the ship. And then do another little turn back in. On low tier destroyers you can do this like aggressive S-turn torpedo launch thing to close the distance, because your torpedoes fire very quickly. So you can basically fire, you know, once a side in a turn. But I don't need to, since all 4 of the second salvo of torpedoes hit the enemy cruiser. And actually, sorry, only 3 of them did, but it was enough to kill it. And now, well, there's only an enemy cruiser and a destroyer left. So I fire some torpedoes up at the cruiser at, again, very long range. And I decide to try and fire my guns at this destroyer, since I don't have much hope of hitting it with torpedoes. My first salvo was way, well, I didn't lead enough. Second one, I'm not really going to get a good chance at it, but I do my best. And they all come in behind, like you'd expect. Just the cruiser's here, it's on very low health. So I decided to take some shots at it, because I probably could take it, and as you see, I get one shot on target, and it destroys the enemy ship. Fortunately it gets a shot on me and hurts my engine some more. As you can see, the destroyers come back, and it set me on fire, and jammed my rudder. And of course, I just used my repair ability to fix my engine. So I'm not going to be able to use it for another 21 seconds, and in those 21 seconds I'm going to be turning in circles. And as I said earlier, you basically can't use your guns unless you're going straight in this ship. So I'm just going to be firing torpedoes when I can, in the hope that they'll hit the enemy destroyer. But as you can see, it turns towards me, so that's not going to happen. But I'll use my repair ability now. And well, I decide I'm going to close with the destroyer and try and fire some torpedoes at point blank range. And I just saw the enemy fire its torpedoes, and I turned to fire mine. I was hoping my turn would make it miss, but it didn't quite, so we end up killing each other with point blank range torpedoes. And of course that's the win for us. 79,000 credits, 2,500 experience. And, well, they see easily top of my team with 4 kills. Fired 50 torpedoes, of which only 8 hit, but they did just shy of 30,000 damage. So this is the, well, second of 3 games I want to show you in the Umikaze. And again, it's on the same map, Big Race. Actually, all three of the replays are on this map. There's only, I want to say, 2 maps that you get in kind of low tier games. And, well, just when I was playing these 3 games, I could just keep getting this map. But anyway, this time I'm actually top tier. There's only tier 1 and 2 ships in this match, and there also aren't very many of us. It's 7 aside, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Which will make it kind of interesting. Especially since, well, I was going to say you'd have to assume these players are pretty new to the game, but no, you actually probably shouldn't assume that. Since, well, I started off with lots of piastres, they call them, instead of gold. So I've bought a lot of ships, and, well, I've been able to keep on to my tier 2s. I sold my tier 1s, but I don't really miss them that much. Whereas this Umikaze is actually a lot of fun, so I might sell it, might not. We'll see. I probably will. So anyway, you see me, I decided to head up into the kind of northeastern corner of the map, because that's where all of my friendly cruisers started. And I figured I'd best be used kind of scouting for them a bit and just kind of zigzagging around in front of them, firing torpedoes at ships distracted while they're shooting at the cruisers. The other destroyer in our team, for some reason, had the opposite idea and went off to the opposite side of the map all by itself. And we've spotted an enemy ship. It is on a closing course 12 kilometers out, so we'll actually be in torpedo range of that one pretty soon. But then I spot a second cruiser which is only 8.5 kilometers out, so I decide I can take shots at that one immediately. And then I start going evasive just on the off chance it has seen me, but I doubt it has. I can't remember what the detection range for this is, but I think it's about 6 kilometers. It should spot me. And those shots aren't coming at me, they're hitting at the cruiser behind me. So I'm feeling pretty okay where I am, so I fire another batch of torpedoes. Again, I'm not really expecting these to hit unless that enemy ship has really tunnel visioned. Oh no, I've definitely been spotted, those shells were coming at me. But I'm now really close to that enemy ship, the first one I spotted. So I wait for my torpedoes to reload, and 2 and 4 of them heading towards that ship. And those other cruisers are coming in at me and this friendly cruiser, so I decide I'm going to kind of retreat behind this island for a bit, just so that hopefully they forget that I'm there. And it looks like my first torpedo salvos all missed, but the second or the third salvo I fired I'm expecting to hit, because it looks like the enemy ship has stopped. And I actually see a lot of players doing this at the moment, where they kind of park behind an island and use it for cover, and they try and do the whole World of Tanks thing where they poke out occasionally and shoot at a ship. But it's not really working for this guy. I get 2 torpedoes on it, do a lot of damage, but not quite enough to kill it. But I believe our team kills it in a minute. And well, I was thinking of taking shots at that cruiser to my left, but there's a friendly cruiser kind of in the way. So I decide not to, and instead, well, I actually did the same thing I did in the last game, and if I take shots at this destroyer, assuming it's going in front of the island, then I look at the minimap and see it's going behind the island, and well, those torpedoes are basically guaranteed misses. On that cruiser that was parked between the 2 islands is dead now, because of course it is, it was sitting still. And I'm being shot at, but so far not very effectively. I fire some torpedoes at this cruiser, and then I see the destroyer's back. And, well, I start popping smoke since I'm under fire, and try and get out of here, basically. So while I'm turning, I kind of look around, figure the destroyer is actually the biggest threat to me, so just put some torpedoes out in its path, might hit them. Then I repair my engine, which that enemy cruiser there shot out. And I realised I could have been shooting at this cruiser the whole time because it was reversing. And I was kind of ignoring it because I was feeling it was a bit close to that friendly cruiser who, as you can see, is kind of advancing on it. But what I decided to do is straighten out, and I get confused here because I see I've sunk an enemy ship. And I thought it must have been that destroyer, but it was actually the cruiser I fired at ages ago, and I thought by this point I'd basically missed. But my torpedoes must have just gotten it kind of at its maximum, well, at my torpedo's maximum range. So there's kind of my first kill, which I was a bit surprised at, to be honest. Anyway, another enemy cruiser is kind of advancing into the centre here. And I do kind of the S-turn attack you saw me doing the last game. At least I believe I'm about to. Nope, I decided to go with my guns. Fire a torpedo salvo, and then fire some high explosive into it. Of course, being only 120mm guns, the shells don't do a lot. And I decided to switch to the destroyer because, well, my shells are just going to be a bit more effective along there. Got one critical hit. It looked like I took out the engine there, I think. But, well, all my torpedoes missed. But I fire a second salvo at the cruiser here, which is on very low health, and you see well, my friends killed it for me. But hopefully it'll hit this destroyer. And the destroyer rams enemy wreck. It looked like it fired some torpedoes at me, but they missed. Got 2 more hits on the destroyer. So I'm actually being pretty effective with my guns in this game. Fired 3 shots, got 3 hits, did 900 damage. And that ship would have, 10,000 hit points, probably. So I just took 10% of its health. My torpedoes are back, so I fire a spread just because I can. Switch back to my guns. And I thought that would get the kill, but, well, my allies got the kill there instead. And now there is only a single cruiser left on the enemy team, and it is capping our base. Which, well, it's not really a good place for that enemy cruiser to be, since we have, well, myself nearby, as in 7 kilometers away, and 2 friendly cruisers. But I suppose the good thing about where it is that since it's kind of close to 2 friendly cruisers, I decide not to go with torpedoes, just because I can't really be certain whether they'll hit the enemy or my allies at this point. So instead I straighten out, and in a minute or two I'll switch to my guns. And it's at this point I realise it's actually just in my maximum range, so my torpedoes outrange my guns, which is actually a pretty unusual situation. Oh, I suppose not so much. At least not for the Japanese destroyers. At high tiers, these torpedoes get a 20km range. And my first couple of shots miss horribly. And, well, I'm not actually firing ranging shots at the moment. I'm only firing 1 shot at a time because only my front gun can bear onto the target. And I'm mainly focused on just closing the range as much as I can, because I was still thinking I'll just get in really close and fire my torpedoes. But still not quite close enough. And it doesn't look like this enemy ship's going to last long enough. Now I can fire 2 guns. And we're doing some damage to the enemy. Third gun's almost on target. There we go. Oh, well, again, my allies kill it before me, but, well, I have to say I helped. As you see, I got 17 shots on target with my guns, which is pretty good considering I can only fire a maximum of 3 at a time. Again, I was top of my team. Only got 1 kill, but got plenty of hits with my torpedoes. As you see, I did just alright, well, 19,000 damage, and also managed another 6,000 with my guns. And, yep, made credits, made experience. Only took 4 hits. They were all AP, which is kind of a bad thing to shoot at destroyers because it tends to just punch straight through and come out the other side before it does any damage. Okay, the final game. I was just checking out my ship a bit here. It's kind of the guns. I think the front gun has a shield, but it's not going to save you anything. But the other ones are all exposed, which means they can get knocked out by high explosive very easily, but as I say, I don't think the shield will actually help much because I assume it's painfully thin. And in this game, I kind of decided to go off independently at the start. Well, not really independently, because there are 3 destroyers behind me. But essentially, when it's kind of this, I can't remember what it's called. Is it? I'll just call it encounter, where there's a single cap that no one starts with, but you've got to take. I kind of like to head off and hang around the edges of the cap circle, just because you can spot the enemy team. Someone's always going to rush straight in, and you can fire torpedoes, and you end up with a nice kind of fight straight in the middle here. Which, well, it's just a lot of fun, to be honest. But my initial plan was to head to the left of that island. I decided to head around the right of it, just because, well, really it was just a case I didn't want to be the first person into the cap circle. Like, I basically wanted the enemy team to be in there and kind of commit themselves to staying in, you know, this open body of water. And then I could pop in and start torpedoing them, and they wouldn't want to leave, because if they left they'd lose all their cap points. So I just took a slightly longer way to get to the cap circle, but it hasn't actually made a difference because the enemy haven't arrived yet. But, well, we've just spotted an enemy battleship actually. Well, that's right, this is a tier 3 game, and the enemy team had 2 battleships, while our team had none. Which was a bit awkward, but I think we made up for it by having more ships. See, that cruiser was very lucky that the battleship missed all of its shots. And again, getting very lucky there, cruiser. And I'm actually running the risk here that by sailing so close to it, some of these shots might hit me. Since, well, I don't think I've been spotted yet. And you see those shots, they came fairly close, but still neither of us have been damaged. And now I'm just kind of looking for targets to shoot at. They're kind of at or close to my maximum range, but I don't really have any good shots here. But well, I decided to take some at this cruiser, just because, well, I can do it safely, and you never know, it might stay on a straight course. And now, kind of 3 enemy ships are crossing between these 2 islands, and of course I've already fired my torpedoes, so I'm just kind of looking to see if I'm going to have a shot at them. And essentially not, my torpedoes are too slow to reach them before they clear that island. So I'm coming around, and I'm going to fire on the other side of this island. Once I find a ship, there we go, I'll just aim at that one, and hopefully that guy will keep going straight. And my torpedoes just missed that guy. You said the cruiser I just fired at then, hopefully it'll keep going straight and will collect a couple of my torpedoes, because I'm guessing it won't be expecting them, since it probably thought it was behind the cover of an island. Anyway, enemy cruiser is shooting at me. I fire my torpedoes, repair my engine which has been damaged again, and start popping smoke, because I don't want the enemy to be shooting at me, and I've already lost probably a fifth of my health. Now the enemy cruiser turned, so all those torpedoes are going to miss, but my second batch, or my ones I fired over there, they look like they're pretty well on target. And it looks like they just missed. So I go back, and I was thinking, could I get a shot off here? Oops, and well, 2 of my torpedoes actually hit the enemy cruiser behind the one I was aiming at. So that was good, and I sink it, which is fantastic. Obviously I caused some flooding, which was enough to sink the enemy ship. I was just a bit slow on his repair button. Some torpedoes in the water near me, just there, but fortunately they miss. And now that the friendly cruiser is out of the way, well, it's just died, so it's definitely out of the way, I fire my torpedoes and start heading back into my smoke screen I laid earlier. And I didn't think these ones would hit, because well, it just seemed very likely that the enemy cruiser would start to turn after, you know, just looking for new targets. But luckily it didn't. And 4 hits. Well, actually only 2 hits, and the other 2 hit its corpse. Or I should say wreck as opposed to corpse, but you know what I mean. And that's 2 cruisers sunk. Okay, we see a destroyer. Switch to my guns. And, well, they're coming on target slowly. I fire some, but the destroyer starts turning just as I do so, so my shots go a bit high, but they were pretty close. And, well, that third shot was a bit wonky, but it died anyway. The second destroyer's appeared, so I take some shots at it. And I know since it's coming straight at me that it can't have fired torpedoes at me, so I'm feeling pretty safe here to just fire away. But then it turns broadside onto me, and so I was thinking of turning, but it turns back, so it's just zigzagging at the moment. So I keep just firing my guns, but now I'm very scared that it's about to fire torpedoes at me, so I fire my torpedoes first. Well, at least what I hope is first. All of mine miss, even though we're painfully close. So switch back to guns, but it's unnecessary since, well, the enemy's already dead. And, well, it's kind of lucky that it didn't fire torpedoes at me just then, because, well, it could have killed me pretty easily. And, well, I suppose in the end it did, but I was kind of just able to outrun them. Okay, see an enemy cruiser coming straight at us. So I start firing with my guns. And, well, I've got 2 hits there, which is pretty good, but it doesn't do a lot of damage to a cruiser. Switch to my torpedoes. And it's going to be very unlikely to hit that guy, simply because it was coming head on at me, so it's presenting a very small profile to my torpedoes. And then I decide to go behind this island, just to kind of sneak around behind the enemy battleships. If you can't tell, we are losing this map. My team has 2 cruisers and 2 destroyers versus 2 enemy battleships, 2 cruisers and a destroyer. So yeah, we're losing. But I'm hoping that if I come around here and the destroyer is not, the battleship's not expecting me, I can basically put 4 torpedoes into its back, and that should do a lot of damage. And I'm just going to wait for my moment. And, well, it's reversing, but I chose to aim directly at it because I thought it would start going forward soon. In my second set of torpedoes I fired, well, where it was going to be when my torpedoes arrived. And I start taking hits from battleship's secondary armament, so I back off. And, well, I get 2 torpedoes to hit, the 2 that I aimed directly at the ship, but the 2 I aimed where the projectile stalemate would be miss. I come back around, fire 4 more, and start coming in closer again because I want to have a short as distance as possible between me and this battleship without getting into range of its secondaries, just so that I'll be a bit more accurate in firing torpedoes. Oh, and I should also mention that at this point I am the sole surviving ship on my team, and I'm alone against 2 battleships, 2 cruisers and a destroyer. So I'm not that confident of victory here, especially since they are capping. The battleship starts moving forward and, well, causes all my torpedoes to miss, but I fire a second batch well in front of it that might hit. But, well, the entire enemy team's shooting at me now, so I start popping smoke and get behind this island. And I don't really have a lot of options here. I've kind of got to decap essentially if I want to win, which means spotting. I think it's the destroyer that's doing the bulk of the capping, although the battleship's sailing through the area as well, so I'll have to kill it. But, well, an enemy cruiser's popped up directly in front of me, so I fire 2 torpedoes at it, or 2 sets of 2 torpedoes at it, and then turn back around, and obviously I'm going to have to go the other way if I want to get into the cap circle. And the enemy's almost won, and it looks like those torpedoes I fired have missed. But I get lucky just here. Well, yeah, I suppose it's lucky in that one of the enemy ships just left the cap circle, so it gives me a bit longer to get in there. I was thinking of firing some torpedoes blind, but essentially if I did spot the enemy that was right there, I want to be able to fire my torpedoes as quickly as possible. Although I am going to have to use my guns because I'm not going to have enough time. Well, my torpedoes aren't going to reach it. But it's all irrelevant because the enemy win by capping. I just can't get there quickly enough. And that is a defeat, with 6 torpedo hits destroying 2 ships, and, well, again being top of my team. But we just didn't do that well. My team, that is. I did alright. Fired 40 torpedoes, 8 hits, 30 or just shy of 30,000 damage. Also got 5 shots with high explosive, which did a bit of damage, but not really anything significantly. And I still made a decent amount of credits. It's a shame we lost.